So as you know, the auction block associated with the sale of enslaved people stood on the corner of William and Chares Streets in downtown Fredericksburg from about 1843 until 2020. As you all know, Fredericksburg City Council voted on June 11th, 2019 to relocate the block from its original location to the Fredericksburg Area Museum after many months of community conversations led by Council and the International Coalition of Sites of Conscience. The auction block was excavated on June 5th, 2020, and moved to the FAM, where we opened the exhibition A Monumental Weight in November 2022. In October 2020, the city placed a bronze medallion and wayside panel to temporarily mark the location, and this is what the corner looks like now. And this is the directive specified in the MOU between the City of Fredericksburg and the Fredericksburg Area Museum for the creation of my position. So when I arrived in Fredericksburg and started thinking about what to do with the auction block corner, I was at first focused on the idea of a minimalist sculpture, thinking about the tightness of the corner, about how we could fit a public art piece into such a small space. But as I researched and talked with people, I realized that we couldn't just put a public art piece there without context, that interpretive text would be a key aspect of this project. The understanding that there was a strong need for interpretation at the site came from one-on-one conversations, but also from the ICSE reports and the Memorials Advisory Commission. It is clear that people want more contextualization and interpretation at that corner, as you can see from some of these quotes. The auction block work group has been meeting regularly for the past year, thinking about how to interpret the corner. In January of this year, I took a trip to Richmond and saw the Emancipation and Freedom Monument that you see on your screen. I was struck by its similarity to other figurative monuments and memorials to slavery across the U.S., including this sculpture at the Equal Justice Initiative's National Memorial for Peace and Justice in Montgomery, Alabama, among many others. I was also thinking about museum memorials to slavery, of which there have been several recently installed, as well as university memorials to slavery. For museums, there's the Whitney Plantation, which you see on your screen in Wallace, Louisiana, which has several memorials on site, including this large memorial featuring the names of 107,000 people enslaved in the state of Louisiana. This memorial adopts a similar structure as other museum memorials, including the very recently opened contemplative site at Monticello, which was in turn inspired by the exhibition Slavery at Jefferson's Monticello, Paradox of Liberty. The trend of commemorating enslaved people with walls of names can be seen at many different museums, especially plantation museums. And I think these walls of names are very effective and evocative, but I think that they always need to be paired with interpretation. So I'm showing you all of these because I want to provide context for our proposal for the auction block site. I also think it's important to understand how our memorial might fit within the larger commemorative landscape. We want to do something that fits within this larger commemorative landscape, but that is unique and explicitly rooted in Fredericksburg. For the auction block site, we propose taking portions of the blocks leading up to the corner at William and Chares. We're currently thinking we'll take about 100 feet in each direction, although that will ultimately be up to the designers. On that same trip to Richmond, I also walked across the T. Tyler Potterfield Memorial Bridge, which you can see here on the right. Embedded in the bridge are quotes related to the Civil War in Richmond. For the auction block site, we propose that we embed text blocks into the street on either side. The text blocks would be a mixture of quotations, interpretive text, and images in the style of the Richmond Bridge or these other examples. Quotations would include excerpts from slave narratives from Virginia, including John M. Washington's Memories of the Past. The point of these quotations is to show how enslaved people actually experienced sales, either as witnesses or as those bought or sold. We could also include quotes from the ICSE reports and community member remembrances of the block, similar to the community wall in the A Monumental Weight exhibition. We would also add interpretive text like you see here at UVA's Memorial to Enslaved Laborers. I envision the interpretive text starting on either side with an introduction and then continuing with key moments related to the slave trade, starting with national dates further away, Virginia closer in, and finally specific to Fredericksburg itself, nearest the block. We could also embed the images of advertisements for sales that John Hennessy has collected if we want to show people exactly how we know the corner held auctions of enslaved people. Interspersed between the text panels, we would embed the names and any information we know about people who were sold from the corner. We could continue adding names as we find them, which is an ongoing process, as you all know. Finally, at the corner itself, we propose some kind of mosaic or otherwise embedded art installation. We think it is still incredibly important to have a public art component of this memorial, but we honor concerns about the potential for vandalism, as well as community member requests for the installation to be subtle. If most of this project is embedded in the sidewalk, you wouldn't be able to see it from anywhere else in the city, and you could avoid it if you wanted to avoid it. However, if you're on that sidewalk, if you're a tourist walking down the street, you'll have to engage with it, which is what some people really appreciated about the auction block when it was still on the street, and what they were looking for during the ICSC discussions. These are some examples of mosaics, but it could take any form and could also incorporate some of the motifs that we've been discussing, like hands or birds or Adinkra symbols like the Sankofa. Finally, we would like to include a light element, perhaps underneath the circle where the block used to be, which you can see pictured in this image of Vice Mayor Fry and Mayor Greenlaw. Additionally, we could have lights underneath the interpretive text or images, or some other way to illuminate the installation for those experiencing it after dark. We will also plan for accessibility, utilizing materials that won't be slippery or otherwise impede people's ability to walk comfortably down the street. This proposal takes into account many of the things people expressed wanting in the ICSC reports, including contextualization and interpretation. People want to learn more from this site, and while they can certainly come to the museum, and we hope that they come to the museum, we can also offer them that chance to learn on the street itself. We can embed primary sources, allowing enslaved people to speak for themselves. We can add names so that we can think about the actual individuals impacted by this corner, and we have the option of continuing to add, making this a dynamic, ever-evolving project. We have the public art element, making this a beautiful and contemplative space, but the whole thing is subtle and quiet, allowing people who are not interested in engaging to opt out. I've been doing some research, and I don't think anything like this exists anywhere else. There are memorials at museums and at universities, and some cities have monuments, usually of figures, as I've shown. But I agree with members of the African American community that we should steer away from figures. I'm very happy to be corrected if I'm wrong, but I don't think there is any other city-developed, city-funded, city-installed memorial to enslavement in the U.S. that would combine interpretation, names, and public art like this one could. I believe this is an incredible opportunity for Fredericksburg to do something unique and thoughtfully rendered and engaging, and I think this idea could be the one to fulfill what the community has asked for regarding this space. The Auction Block Work Group has developed a loose plan for the implementation of this project. The first step is presentations like this one and community feedback. In addition to presenting this plan to you all tonight, I presented at the Memorials Advisory Commission last week, and I will be presenting to the Architectural Review Board and the Fredericksburg Arts Commission in late September. We will also be offering 2 presentations to the public, one virtually on September 15th that will be recorded and available to view on the city and museum websites, and one in person at the Fredericksburg Area Museum on October 5th. The FAM is in the process of hiring an evaluation intern who will help me collect feedback from the public as well. Our plan is to write and release a request for proposals from teams to design and execute the actual project. I've spoken to many different people involved with the development of memorial projects in Virginia, including representatives from UVA and William and Mary. The plan that makes the most sense based on those conversations is to create a very carefully worded RFP for teams to include project managers, artists, designers, and architects. We will not specify who has to be on the team, but provide ideas for inclusion on the teams. The plan is for me to start drafting the RFP next month, and we hope to release the finalized RFP in January 2024. So that's the plan. I'd love to answer any questions if you all have any. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Dr. Sims, for that excellent presentation. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what comes of this. I was actually just curious on a very small detail of it. You mentioned the light down at the bottom. What is the idea there for the light, as you know, with respect to the rest of the installation?
Yeah, so there's, I guess, 2 ideas behind it. The first is that When the auction block was first removed, many community members expressed wanting to think about from darkness to light as the kind of thematic journey of the auction block. So that was actually the original idea for the exhibition that's now in the museum. So this idea that African American history comes from this darkness from an auction block, and that now we've progressed in a way that we can think about the positive a little bit more. So I like that idea, that kind of theme being embedded in this project, and this is what community members had brought up before. But the other thing is that we really want to make sure that you can see this at night. So at the UVA Memorial to Enslaved Workers, they have different mounted lights to make sure that you can kind of still experience the memorial after dark. So we want to just make sure that it's still accessible, given that a lot of people are walking around downtown after dark, and we want to make sure that they can still see the memorial and participate in it if they'd like to.
And that would incorporate everything, even the sidewalk, or mostly just there at the corner?
We're not sure yet.
Okay.
That'll be up to the designers.
Sure.
I think it will be important for any text to have some sort of illumination.
Right.
And so I think it would kind of connect well if we had the text illuminated and then the corner itself illuminated, but I'm not a designer, so I don't know for sure what exactly they'll
Completely understand. That was just one, like I said, minor just question I had about the design. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate that question.
Vice Mayor Fry.
Thank you, Mayor Greenlaw. And Dr. Sims, thank you for your leadership. You've made your rounds around the city, and a lot of folks, they feel like they knew you when you got here. You know, it's like, hey, I talked to Dr. Sims, or, you know, and then I know that other folks are bringing different conversations, different ideas about history in general. So I just wanted to say thank you, you know, for your approach, and a lot of folks, you know, they are in line, you know, waiting to talk to you, and a lot of folks that have talked to you are excited. As for the slave auction block, I think council knows what I'm about to say. Thank you to the entire council, you know, for, you know, it was a huge joint effort. So every time this comes up, I'm going to say the same thing. I'm going to say thank you every time because it's important. And we talk about it in Fredericksburg, you know, because it's what's going on here, and folks in the surrounding counties, you know, they talk about it a lot. When I talk to folks from the VML, whenever we go to conferences or whatever the case, this is the discussion, and then that turned into, you know, I get phone calls from all around the state for situations of how to discuss, you know, exactly what we're doing here in Fredericksburg. And I know, like, you know, when the Black Lives Matter protests, you know, took over a couple of years ago, which was important. It's an important timepiece, you know, in our lives. When that all happened, a lot of localities took advantage of that opportunity to kind of go off about everything they didn't like, you know, in their city or their county, and we had already beat everybody to the punch, because it wasn't a thing of, you know, like madness. It was more like we went through this process, and the dialogue is there. So, you know, the fact that we did that, I just want, you know, I want you to know, Dr. Sims, and I want, you know, folks in the city to know that we are a leader. You know, we are a leader in mainly discussion. And if the block did not leave the corner, we still had the discussion. And, you know, that is very important because it leads into so many different things. So once again, I just want to say, Dr. Sims, thank you for your leadership and carrying the baton of the council, you know, and I think that council is very satisfied with the work. So I'm excited about it, and it's, you know, even talking about it tonight, you know, is important, because it's just showing that the conversation continues. And this is a conversation that could have stopped then, and we could have waited for the presentation because that's what everybody was waiting on. Everybody was waiting, when is it going to be, you know, in the museum? When are we going to see it? I think for about a year and a half, folks were saying, where is the block? You know, because it was tucked away for a while, you know, until we got it right. So I had a recent discussion about the graffiti. Somebody asked me about the graffiti on the block that was on the block. And, you know, needless to say, is somebody was expressing themselves, whatever they did to that block, if it's good or bad, somebody was expressing themselves. And I'm not saying it was a good thing. I'm saying that they felt the need to express themselves, and they let it out there. And I think it was over 20 years ago, somebody chipped the block. And I remember then, I remember it was an outpour, I would say, from the city. It was an outpour, like folks were looking for pieces of the block to put it back together. And even with somebody chipping the block apart, it was more or less, hey, if you know who did it, who vandalized this block, and we need that piece to put it back. But nobody thought about who vandalized the block, why they did it, or the fact that it was no discussion once that block was first vandalized. So, we did it without vandalizing the block, and we more or less, in the same sense of what they did, we put the community back together. So I'm satisfied and I'm excited, but Mayor Greenlaw, I can go on and on. You want me to keep going, Mayor Greenlaw? but
I was just about to embellish your comment.
But for council, though, I want to, once again, I'm going to say thank you. And if you come back again, I'm going to say thank you again. So thank you, Dr. Sims.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Devine.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And yes, thank you, Dr. Sims, for being here tonight and for the presentation. It has been several years since we removed the block, but removing the block didn't obviously remove that history. And I think what you suggested as far as including the personal pieces to that corner, that memorial, really begins to maybe bring some humanity to what was a very inhumane situation and practice in our country. And I think, again, the designs that, they're just designs. You're not a designer. We don't know what the design will be, but it very much seems like it will respect our downtown and help people interact in, like you say, at their, if they choose to, and in a way that just really does respect what's gone before and what will be the future of our historic district downtown. So, again, I really appreciate that, the thoughtfulness and your research that has gone into this so far. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Dr. Duffy.
Thank you, Dr. Sims, for being here. Thank you for your presentation. I'm very pleased with the direction you're going, and just looks wonderful. I want to add that having this in our city, I think, is, and just seeing this on top of things that have happened recently in telling the story of Fredericksburg in a more complete way, is really taking us down the road significantly of making sure that this city is a city that works for everyone. And hopefully this is a bold reminder that we need to take on the task of making sure that this city works for everyone every day. And I think that this is going to, I see this building and building, and I want to say thank you to the Vice Mayor, because he has been a force in this city and on this council that is hard to measure, hard to quantify, but it is enormous, absolutely enormous. And it's an honor to serve with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Gerlach?
I shouldn't have followed Dr. Duffy. Dr. Sims, the one thing you said really struck me, and if I could ask you to repeat it again about your sense of how this project is unique compared to any other projects in the United States. Could you just run through that again real quick?
Sure, no
Thanks.
problem. I don't think that anything exactly like this exists anywhere else. Like I said, there are memorials at museums and universities, and some cities have monuments like the Richmond one that I showed, but I don't think that there is any other city-developed, city-funded, city-installed memorial to slavery that would combine names, public art, and interpretive text like we're proposing with this one. So it would be pretty unique, I think, and we've talked to some other people around Virginia who've done these memorials projects, and at least it seems like they agree that this would be something completely different.
Great, thanks for that refresh. I just want to congratulate you on this incredible work. I've worked with you on the working group and really excited about the design and looking forward to seeing what comes out of the RFP. I do want to note that collectively we are blazing the way for telling a uniquely human story here in Fredericksburg, and I think we can all be proud of that. It's a difficult subject, it really is, but I think we're handling it with grace and just have a lot to look forward to. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. And thank you for all your help on the work group.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Dr. Sims, what is so amazing is that the conversation that we started, how long ago? 2017, that resulted in so many forums and so many public meetings and so many people coming out being willing to be honest and talk with each other. What you are proposing is what I heard over and over in those meetings. And you weren't there. John Gerlach wasn't there, I don't think, at that time. And so the amazing thing is all that work, all that compassion from our community is showing up in a physical way. I just got cold chills when I first read about your design, because it is the kind of thing I heard over and over in our small group discussions. We've got to respect the names, and we've got to respect the time, and we've got to make it accessible in a meaningful way. So congratulations to you and the whole team as we continue our journey to be honest with ourselves and our descendants about our history. Thank you.